There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonkō Table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonkō Table, the table that will make their dreams come true.
Yo! Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Yonkō Table, right? That's the voice of GrandMasterHoop. You're hearing a fellow Yonkō. And we are bringing you today the latest and greatest on the revival, the reboot, the remake of the hit Broadway musical West Side Story. Yes, it's in 2021. We're about 70 years or 80 years, forgive my math after the fact. I might be too many years, man. People are looking at me like I'm crazy. Either way, welcome to 2021, where we have seen the soft reboot of musicals, and we're back with West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's first musical. And we're here to talk about it at the table. We're here to eat it up. We're trying to talk about what we liked, what we enjoyed, and controversy around it, and cultural impact, and all this and more. So here we are. But with me, as always, is my fellow Yonkō host, DrJaceAttorney. DrJaceAttorney, what brings you to the table today?
Here to talk about West Side Story with my fellow crewmates at the table. We saw West Side Story recently. I enjoyed it. This is my second musical film right after In the Heights. So I'm on that craze with, like, you know, the musical films coming into theaters. We're in that soft reboot era, as you say. And yeah, I'm ready to dive deep into this.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you came out too. I didn't think you would come, but I'm glad you're starting to get on this musical wave with us.
It has Boricuas in it. They're representing.
We all love Boricuas, right?
Exactly.
Right. Thank you. You know, funny enough, the fellow Supernovas on the cast, they all have musicals. They all have a soft spot, I would think, in their heart somewhere. And that's a little fun fact for the fans that didn't know. A lot of us performed in a glee club together. So without further ado, let's introduce our musical Supernova guests. First up, we have DoctahReeka. DoctahReeka, welcome back. How are you doing?
Well, I'm excited to talk about musicals. It's been a good year. We've had In the Heights, Tick, Tick, Boom, West Side Story. We'll all forget about Dear Evan Hansen. Ooh. But look.
I haven't seen it.
You know, I think you can save your 2 hours and just rewatch either West Side Story or In the Heights or Tick, Tick, Boom. But we've had some good movies this year. I'm excited to talk about this one.
Awesome. We're glad that you made time from your dissertation to join us today.
Yes.
That doctor's no joke, folks. That doctor's no joke. Speaking of doctors, we also have DrMondo in the house. DrMondo, you got the time zone right today. Nice job. How's it going?
No, it's that you got the time zone right this time. Finally, it was about time.
About time. Thank you.
No, just happy to be here, especially just to talk about West Side Story. Love the movie. As a Puerto Rican, I really gotta say, this movie hit home. So I'm glad that I'm here to talk about it.
We're glad you're here too. I'm glad I got the time zone right today to accommodate you. So thank you for being here. We also got Supernova Darce. Darce, well, how's it going, man?
It's going great. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about mi gente, not only those Puerto Ricans, but also the New Yorkans that are up there. Musicals, love them. Glad that, you know, this is the year of the musicals. This is also the year of the Latinx people. You know, we've had Encanto, In the Heights, West Side Story. We're flooding the place. We're taking over your land. I'm just kidding. But I'm glad to see
shout out to the Native Americans.
I'm glad to be here on the table. This is great.
Awesome. We're glad. I like that spirit and energy. Keep that going throughout the whole cast. And lastly, we got our very own. He's our Tony, folks. He's our Tony. We got NinoDesplazado. Nino, we know you are very passionate about West Side. Thank you for coming today. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this movie. I'm very protective of West Side Story. It was actually one of the first musicals that ever got me into musical theater. So it'll be fun to talk about.
And that's what the Yonkō Table's about. We have fun, we come in here, we bring up stuff. We may not always agree, but it's a fun time. It's a fun ride. So without further ado, folks, let's get going. And again, just ride with the flow, and we got this. Because honestly, y'all gonna be carrying more than me. Because I'm over here. Here, let's go ahead and begin. I'm an avid West Side knowledgeable person. I think I've seen the original movie once. This is a remake, folks. Again, I don't know the math on this, but the original came out in 1961. I'm not sure when the original show had its run on Broadway. 57. All right, so 57, followed by 4 years. Then they got its theatrical, which everybody loved. It's deemed as one of the greatest musicals of all time. I did not think we would be here with a remake. Is it natural that we have a remake here? I guess so. Steven Spielberg stepped up. And I'd like to say, as a Spielberg fan, very well done by Spielberg. For his first time out as a musical, I think he nailed it. I think he hit out the park. I said this too when leaving the movie theater. I said, if there was a musical for Steven Spielberg to do, this was the one. I can't imagine Spielberg doing something like Hairspray or something like super lively and bouncy. This is the one, snaps, turn, jazz hands, jazz squares.
I do have to say this remake though, this was, we talk a lot about like all these remakes being shot for shot and how, it doesn't necessarily meet expectations because the original is always just so much better. But this one, I have to say, like, these shot for shot remakes, and like, even though this one wasn't exactly shot for shot, we had it just felt so organic, and it felt so it was like I was watching the original but in high definition. I think they did a great job with this. I think Steven Spielberg he understood the assignment, guys. Like, I don't know about how everybody else is feeling, but I think that this opened the doors for other musical adaptations to get more funding in all of their different projects. So I'm so stoked that he did this. I loved it. I want to hear everybody else's thoughts. This is just me.
Well, I think with Spielberg, you're going to get more big time directors coming to direct, more musicals. I mean, Tom Hooper has already done Les Mis.
No. Keep him away from musicals, please.
You're just saying that because of Cats.
No, I'm saying that because of Les Mis too, but that's another discussion.
There was a Les Mis too?
He did Les Mis, and then, Les Mis saw great success, and then he did Cats.
Okay.
Right, and Cats, yeah.
So do you think we're going to get Sam Raimi doing Spider-Man the musical?
Absolutely not.
Into the Dark, yes.
No,
a proper film adaptation.
No. There's some things that only work in theater, and Spider-Man Into the Dark barely worked in theater.
It didn't even work. So many people got hurt in the production of that. So
you're right.
Right. It's like it has like the most injuries in Broadway history, but we digress. I will say West Side is pretty relevant kind of still to this day. A lot of the themes that happen in the original and as well as this one, I think they did a much better job shedding light on it, of course. Y'all could take it from there, but I mean, one thing they already got right was the casting. They got the cast right. No more brown face. And I'm glad to see.
Was there brown face in the original?
There was brown face in the original one.
No, this is coming from someone like I have no background knowledge on the original play or the original film, so like this is all news to me. That's crazy. What? Wait, both in the play and in the movie?
I don't know about the original Broadway one, but in the movie, the guy who played Bernardo was in brownface. He's like some dude from Ohio.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like Natalie Wood, who played the original Maria,
who didn't even sing. She
didn't sing.
No, she did not sing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I guess. I was just going to segue into. So West Side Story was a big deal in my family. I'm Puerto Rican, but there was like a sense of it's a big deal because this is like almost all we have for Puerto Rican representation. Like we never see us. And so there was a sense of like, I think growing up, I was like, okay, yes, this is a big deal. And then as I got older, I was like, but also like these folks ain't even Puerto Rican. Like,
yeah.
And then even Rita, who like the queen, we love her, was also like bronzed. So she wasn't even like her actual skin color. They added extra makeup onto her to make her seem darker than she actually is. So there was just a lot of, I have like a love critique type relationship with the original, where like, I get it's the 60s and my expectations were low regardless. But there's like a sense of like, this is great because I'm saying Puerto Ricans, but also there's so much stereotyping. The accents are a mess. All of y'all are in brown face. Some of y'all aren't even originally singing. There's some problematic lyrics, which Sondheim did address in like this updated version. So there's like a, like, yay, Puerto Rican representation. And I love musicals and I am Puerto Rican. And so this is what I have to kind of hold on to, but also there's like some problems, which I think they did. And I'm sure we'll discuss as we move forward, you know, address those more head on, as you know, Hooper had alluded to, as far as like actually casting Latinx folks across the board, and people actually singing as well. And there's still some stereotypes in there, but my assumption is that it is meant to be purposeful based off of kind of how some of the characters view Puerto Ricans in the film. What I will say, I had a really good time, and I really, you know, just appreciated sitting in the theater and feeling like not everything was as much as a hot mess as it was in the original. Is well done as a lot of those scenes are, and as much as I love Rita, it's like, damn, y'all also got some problems in that 61 version. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made about the West Side Story being almost like all we had, because when, you know, growing up in Miami for Latinx representation in like musical theater, there was only, you know, In the Heights and West Side Story, and in the original, they kind of didn't feel like Puerto Rican. They just felt like, these are just Latin people, these are Hispanic people, and this is what we think they are like. I really like the efforts in this movie, and I'm not saying the accents in this movie, I can't stand by them, but they do feel like that these people do feel that they're Puerto Rican, that they're from, you know, the island, that they've lived there, that's who they are. And I think I really want to open it up and see what everyone else thought, because I know like you, DrReeka, Dr. Mondo is actually like from Puerto Rico. What did you think?
No, so I feel this like kind of circling a little bit back to what Darce said. It's like, yeah, it's a remake, but it's its own thing. Like, sure, it's like, it is West Side Story. It's based on it, like it's based obviously on West Side Story, but it's so much more than that. Like, here you can see really many different aspects of Puerto Rican culture that have never been really seen in American cinema per se. Like, there were very overt things of Puerto Rican culture, like the way they spoke, to very subtle things, like a writing on the wall as a reference to Albizu Campos, like Puerto Rico's revolutionary leader. Even there's even a conversation like right after the sharks leave, like almost in the first scenes of the movie, where the Jets start discussing like, hey, Puerto Ricans, they're like American citizens. They're not American citizens. Even throwing a little bit of the jab of the ignorance that we see today. Like, and it's like, this is the 50s. The movie's in the 50s. And we're still seeing that today, where a lot of Americans don't know that us Puerto Ricans are American citizens. And they threw it in there in the movie. And even like the revolutionary hymn, they sing it in the movie, like out of nowhere.
Was that the one he did
The
right
very
after
beginning.
La
Shrek?
Boriqueña.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what people
you-
don't know is like the lyrics used in the movies are not like they're not allowed to be used in like real life. So they rewrote it because when I'm not gonna say seated feels kind of uncomfortable. When Puerto Rico was colonized by the US, they had to change the words because they felt they were too aggressive. So the words that are actually used in the film are the original that were written.
That's the original hymn that obviously has been lost a little bit through time because, well, Americanization, so forth, blah, blah, blah. So like, that is the true Borinqueña, what they sang in the movie. So there were so many things that they brought up that no one has brought up ever in American cinema. And it's like, right now I'm not even living in Puerto Rico, and that hit home. Like I was blown away because I really, as a Puerto Rican, I was like, wow, I understand everything they're saying here. Like even the tiniest little details, which I'm pretty sure 90% of like the movie theater didn't even get. And I was like, it was a little piece of home that they gave me. So it was like,
I was gonna say there's plenty of stuff I wanted to. I was sitting next to Dr. Chase. I wanted to ask him if he caught any of the references to the the greater culture, the whole movie, and also they were speaking Spanish and there were no subtitles.
That was an interesting choice.
And I was totally fine.
That
with
was really
too.
interesting.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I accepted the fact that I did not follow up with Spanish after high school, and I was like, this is my fault. And I should have, because Spanish is gonna be the #1 language in America in the next 10 years or so. So I'm like, that's my own fault. But shout out to Spielberg, because that's the attention to detail that they did to this movie that y'all can connect and have that cultural recognition. Versus, I guess in the original, honestly, you could have picked any ethnic group, but they weren't going to cater to the actual cultural side of it. They were just going to cater to the story, the musical. These songs are going to sound a little different from the Jets songs. Their dance movements are going to be a little different from the Jets, but there was a lot more attention to detail and respecting the culture, which I think this movie does a really good job at shining in.
Even the choreographies, when like the Puerto Ricans start to dance, it's very salsa merengue. It's like, even though the music behind it is kind of jazzy like that, but you can still feel and listen to the Latin flair that they put immediately when they start dancing.
Right.
It's like very detailed oriented. Obviously there's ballet integrated into the movie, but it with a certain Latin flair when the sharks and like all the Puerto Ricans start dancing.
And
I also want to add. I want to
sorry.
add really quick with the subtitles. It was a really cool detail with that because in the 50s, when you had a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York migrating kind of over there, they would speak their native tongue, and people would get so frustrated that they didn't know what was being said that it boiled up Karens. Like they would be like, "Now you're here, you're gonna speak our language."
You just speak American.
And so they get so agitated because they don't understand. And sometimes it was a little bit of a safety and kind of like an escape for our heritage to kind of use that to kind of communicate with each other as like a defense, as a way to protect ourselves, because we didn't know what was going to be happening if we said something that someone else wouldn't like. But I thought this was really cool to see that aspect with West Side Story, that they didn't do the subtitles, because I can already see some people in the audience like, I don't understand what they're saying. Like, why didn't they put subtitles in this thing? Like, getting upset. And I'm like, I think that's the whole point. Like, you're hitting, like, that's the reason why they didn't do it, because it puts you even further into the movie where, if you're seeing it from the eyes of the detective that is trying to figure out what's going on, like who killed Bernardo, like, you get frustrated that you don't understand what they're saying. It's like, please speak English. English, please. You know,
it's that parallel, because it's like, you know, yeah, they tell them to speak English because you're in America, but it's like, well, if you've never been to a Spanish speaking country, you're gonna want everybody. You are the person on the outside. You are the one begging for some context. I was totally fine. I accepted it. I was like, all right, I caught every other word. I'm over here like Tony writing stuff down. I'm like, all right, yeah. Ask her for coffee before asking her to run away from me siempre. So
Siempre, yo, you remember? Nice.
I do.
Yeah.
I know a good amount of Spanish.
I will say, Spielberg did say it was purposeful too, that, you know, he wanted to be respectful of just like the fact that this is what everyday life looks like. And that it felt like, because to be honest, the original film, while I think a lot of Puerto Ricans felt like alignment with it, because again, the lack of representation, it wasn't necessarily made for us in mind, clearly based off of casting and a lot of the choices. And while I still have my own criticisms, because like all the people behind the scenes are white, they're all older white men. The writers of the song lyrics, the music, the direction, like everyone responsible who was kind of involved as far as the head honchos are still white men. So there is my own criticism as far as like, y'all could have gotten a couple more folks like on board. Like we exist beyond just who's going to be in front of the camera. So that is a critique I do have. I do feel like Dr. Mondo said, there was more intentionality around like injecting our culture at the forefront. Like, and something that was pretty easily done was like not having subtitles and saying, this is what everyday life looks like. This is what interactions look like. We want to respect, you know, our language and the ways in which we kind of interact and have relationships with folks. And even the ways in which Darce had already brought up, like other folks then treat us as a result of just speaking Spanish. And you saw a lot of that represented within the film.
Paciencia y fe.
Wrong music.
Piragua.
Wrong music. But yeah, I think that's really a great point. I did want to. I have a couple of things, but to the point of like getting the culture right, they even used the original version of the Puerto Rican flag, which I noticed, which has like the light blue, which the U.S. doesn't allow to be flown anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was like, damn, that's actually a really good visual callback, and not a lot of people will get. The musical, this movie was kind of going in line with the 2009 Broadway revival of West Side Story, where, get this, and this happened on Broadway, they actually had half the musical, like, and including songs, just be in Spanish. And whenever there was, Puerto Ricans on stage, they were just in Spanish. A lot of their parts were in Spanish, and they changed the lyrics for that. And it's interesting that legacy is still there, because it wasn't catering as much to the white American audience. And I think Spielberg, intentionally or not intentionally, was maybe for the people who were going to go see this musical and didn't have any idea what it was about. And they were asking, why can't they just speak Spanish? When they started hearing the white policeman and the Jets saying the same thing, who are not positioned, not like in the original 1961 movie, they were like the heroes. Here, they're not positioned as the heroes. They're positioned as the racist aggressors from like the very start of the film. I think it makes people, or at least should make people, question, why am I getting so angry? Why am I getting so angry when I'm seeing other people's culture and seeing how other people live? At least that's what I hope its effect is, or maybe I hope that was its intention, because it seems he does it so many times throughout the film, and he always follows it with a lens of contemplation, like afterwards. Like either you see, either one of the sharks or Maria or Anita, and speaking about Anita, I'll get to her, but either like really like seem afraid of that interaction and then have to replicate it within their own household, within like when Bernardo, Anita, and Maria are literally in the kitchen, they're like, oh, speak English, and it's just interesting that you get to see more of that. And I really, go ahead.
No, it's like it's the different types, like Puerto Ricans in a way, because Anita is the Puerto Rican, because this is all during the time of like kind of diaspora, the Puerto Rican migration in the 50s, where the Puerto Ricans left Puerto Rico in search of opportunity. Like the United States was deemed like, oh, it's the land of opportunity, and most of them went to New York. So you would see like
maybe Afros.
What? So Anita is the one, hey, I'm here looking for the opportunity, and Bernardo is kind of the romantic that still wants to go back to Puerto Rico. He is like this
is a set time for him.
He's very grounded in that I am going to go back to Puerto Rico. That romanticism that he has, like that he can't let go of his island. And Anita, you see, like she still feels Puerto Rican, but she's trying to adjust and adapt and mold herself to like the US.
Which when she has that snapping moment.
Yep.
When she goes to Doc's, and then she's like, I'm Puerto Rican, you know?
Yeah.
And she's done trying to let me adjust to America, you know? Because what have they shown her but all this hostility and, you know, racism? So it's like, now she understands how people like Bernardo was feeling.
Yeah, and they try to rape her, and I'm glad that they didn't, that they said what it was, you know, that they had Rita Moreno's character say what it was.
You grew up to be rapist, right?
Rapist. Because in the original, it's always alluded to, which again, in the original movie, and the Jets are poised as the good guys. They're the ones that we're empathizing with. And it's so wild to me because when you really think about, when I really started a few years back, when I just started deep diving this musical and like just dissecting the music, dissecting the script, dissecting the story, I'm like, damn, like, why are they poising the Jets in the 60s movies to be the heroes? They're the ones we follow. You don't see any life of the Puerto Ricans outside of, and that's a fault of the musical. I will say though, I will say though, in the original musical, there was an element that I think they should have kept in this movie, which America isn't actually sung by Bernardo and Anita primarily, with the guys and the women having a back and forth of, oh, I want to go back to San Juan, and you know, and then the women are being like, no, we love it here and we want to make a life here. In the original musical, it's only the women that sing that song.
Oh, really? I thought that there was no men.
No,
in the musical, the musical or the film?
In the musical.
All right, so not the film.
No, not the film. In the original musical like production and how it's normally done on Broadway, is that only the women do it, and it's also one of the only sections in the musical where, and there's a great video on this about the musical composition of West Side Story, where Bernstein used, you know, the opening whistle.
Right.
He uses those notes to construct the entire musical, except for America and another song, and that's supposed to represent the conflict due to the racist aggressors of the Jets and the fighting with the Sharks. America is the only song in the musical that's kind of free from that, which I think is really interesting when it's only involving the Puerto Ricans and they're living their lives and having these moments to joke around and talk and be honest with each other.
I would like to think that's because, you know, that's them projecting their ideals of what America should be, and versus the rest of the movie is kind of like, this is actually what's going on. It's actually not that great of a place, and there's full of punks and racism and xenophobia going on. And, you know, that's the great thing about a remake. The remake has a chance to right the wrongs of the original. And I think they did a lot of good rewriting the problems and the wrongs presented in, whether it be the original film or the Broadway musical. So I think would we all be in agreement there? They definitely, you know, not only because it's not only did they rewrite the wrongs, but they took it a step further to do better than before. It's like it's one thing to be like, okay, we can't do brown face, but they also, you know, he purposely went and got, like he said, he got first generation Puerto Ricans, second generation, and then New Yorkers too to fulfill these roles.
And what's cool is you also see all of the different colors of Puerto Ricans. You know, like we're not all this luscious, beautiful caramel color like I am. We are, you know, Puerto Ricans they come in every different shape, just like Cubans. You know, like, and it's really cool to see the different diverse casting that's in this. And Anita literally she stole every single scene that was there, but it was so cool to see her.
Can we talk about Anita? Like, who
Best
stole the show
character.
for you?
Best character.
Anita.
Ariana DeBose.
Anita. If you have a good Anita, that's the thing that really needs to get you through a good West Side Story production. Because Anita steals the show every single time.
I loved her, every bit of her, and again, I feel she didn't even do that much in the beginning. She was just kind of the voice of reason, you know, the cutting the tension between Bernardo and Maria, you know, but she's electric, you know.
Yeah. Woogie.
I was gonna say, I know I disappeared. I think my Wi-Fi did whatever it did, so now I'm on my phone. So it is what it is. But what I was gonna say is, just to add on a little bit, and then I'll get back to Anita, to like aspects of like changing for the good, or really injecting a little bit more than in what the original provided. Something we hadn't talked about, unless you did in the moment that I was gone, was Anybody's. In the original, if I'm not mistaken, was like a tomboy, but in this they made it pretty clear through a lot of the dialogue that like this is a trans person, or maybe non-binary, gender not conforming, which tied into also like the actor who played them as well. So I thought that was something just to kind of point out that there was intentionality around being more inclusive, even in subtle ways. Although I didn't feel like it was subtle, there was clear dialogue as far as like, you know, I am not a woman, I'm not a girl.
They gave him that scene, right? Like, if you didn't get it, it's here. It's here. Yes. I am not a girl. Like,
so I did appreciate that.
It was also that intentional, the intentionality of drawing so much attention and lingering on the two benches, and then also having like their own arc. Like, I think it was very early on that, what do you call it? That they presented that this is a queer person. Like, there's no mistake about it. And there was also that in the original movie, in the original production, but it was the 60s and 50s. You can only do so much then. I really like it here. I don't know how I liked it, you know, as an overall in terms of the story, but I'm also not coming to West Side Story to look for a queer narrative. So
yeah, did they like throw it in your face? I mean, yes, they blatantly told you, versus like a natural kind of character arc, which is fine. But no, I get your point when you say it didn't like necessarily like flow within the story. But
I mean, I thought it was pretty good, because like what we were saying is like it kind of brings a little bit of modernality to it's necessary.
Don't get me wrong, it's necessary.
And it's good to see, because, you know, a lot of these tomboys, quote unquote tomboys, because I'm not even sure if that's an appropriate term to use nowadays.
It's not.
So these tomboys, quote unquote, from the 1950s, and that's what, you know, they would call that character. Oh, you're such a tomboy and stuff. It's good to see that the shining the light and seeing more trans representation on the screen. It makes it that much more comfortable to have conversations with other people and with family members back at home. So I loved it. I loved seeing it there. I went into the movies knowing that, because my sister, I purposely went and saw it with my sister, who she did some musical performances on Broadway. And so she's very big into that world, and she was so excited about it. And she made it a point to make sure that everybody knew in our group that, you know, this is such an amazing thing, because it can open up those conversations.
Yeah.
Now back to Anita. But I don't want anybody's to not be mentioned.
No. Anybody's was gonna be mentioned. I got
So-
his name, Ezra Mines, or their name.
Their name.
I had that ready to go.
But Anita
yeah.
did slay. She took over the entire screen. Oh my Lanta, like her energy was very electrifying.
Yeah, Anita was amazing.
I think America was the best number, honestly. Just the camera work too, as when they're flowing the dresses, running down the street in that tracking shot. I thought honestly they put the most effort into that scene. If that was to be their biggest number, it looked like their biggest number.
I loved it.
And I think too, just the idea of like knowing Rita was going to be in the film and that she was going to share scenes with her, even that, like, I feel like it was probably a lot of pressure. I'm sure maybe they asked her about it, during the press tour, but she really rose to the occasion and made it her own. And you all have already kind of discussed America, but I think just across the board, as far as like seeing her journey and the ways in which she would capture the screen anytime she was on screen. I'm pretty sure it's never happened before that like someone in the original and in a remake would win, at least in terms of like film. Certainly probably happened on Broadway, but there would be nominations or even wins. I know as far as like Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, like in other circles, her name has been thrown out there or she has been nominated. So I think it'd be really interesting to see if it moves forward. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies this year, and she's one of the best supporting actress performances I've seen this year. So
I think that'd be quite the feat. I think that'd be really cool to see. Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened, as far as I know.
And I think she really does earn it.
A boy like that.
You felt it. I felt it.
I was like, "Are you dumb? Are you
dumb with those words?"
I felt it. I was like, "Oh my god, dummy." Rachel Zegler.
I was about to say, I think it's a really good transition into Rachel.
Yes.
So it's her debut performance. She's coming straight from high school, so she's 20, but when in filming or in auditions, I think she was like 17, 18.
Yes, and she played Maria in Community Theater. Right.
But she was great.
Loved her.
She killed it.
Honest, I find Maria Antoni the least interesting, depending on who's playing them. But of the entire collection of characters, and I'm sure we'll get to Mike Face as well, who played Rip, who was great. But like, there's a rich like supporting character cast there that when you're Maria Antoni, you really gotta bring it if you want to stand out. And I feel like Rachel is certainly the standout in terms of the two leads. She's just talented. I was listening earlier to the song that you were already singing, Ethan, and compared it to some other versions of just like that interaction between Anita and Maria. Rachel's maybe my favorite. There's something in terms of like her emotionality and how she's able to project. She's also singing on her own, and we've already talked about how Natalie Wood didn't do the singing.
This is such a shame. I was so fooled. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's not because I think there was like she wanted to, but it just didn't happen, and stuff like that happened in the 50s and 60s in musicals. And so Rachel is super, super talented, and I thought it was a really great debut performance. So I really enjoyed her.
Yeah, of the two leads, I was way more invested. A, in her talent, and B, her story, because I'm a lukewarm West Side fan, but I saw a lot more character in this Maria, fighting for her independency, her autonomy, trying to break free from Bernardo and his toxic masculinity and what that looks like on a brother and sister. I loved Maria, and God, her voice carried. Like, good. Nino, that's your Maria. If you ever to play Tony, that's
I'm
who you
too
stand
old
opposite.
I'm too old for Tony. it's never gonna happen.
Don't count yourself out. Who knows?
Who knows?
How y'all feel about Ansel Elgort?
All right. Well, since we got here, I think
Here we go.
he was a bland piece of toast. I don't think he should have ever been cast here. There's a lot of outside the movie drama with him,
Which I was
that are very
unaware. Was
credible.
anyone else unaware?
Yeah,
I was
I was
unaware.
I was
unaware.
aware.
yeah.
I
I
had
was
no idea.
completely unaware about that. And then when I found out, I'm like, these scenes where he's towering over Maria, that is much younger, creepy. So whenever I'm gonna have to like go back and rewatch it, because I really love it as a whole. I mean, he had a uphill battle no matter what. Tony's is my dream role, and I'm very protective over it. I just think he was miscast. I dislike the idea that Tony needs to be some goody two shoes. No, this man was a gangster. He was a gangster running, beating people up.
He beat
May
the
give him
crap
some-
out of a kid to the
Oh my
brink of
God.
death.
Out of an Egyptian kid, they made that
Egyptian-
point very clear. He beating on all minorities around New York.
I beat someone up. Marry me. Like,
That's romantic.
No, I
course.
do have to say, like, when the translation to modern day times and some of the issues that were going on in that, to me, I was like, what in the heck? Maria, what are you doing? Like, this guy went and killed your brother, and you're just like, okay, let's go have sex. It's like, oh, ma'am, what are you doing?
Did they have sex in the
So,
original?
there was-
Yes. Well,
But
it's implied.
But in that context, like, was it like, I just killed your brother?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
he
okay.
ran right through- yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I don't know if that was like a
Did you
like
just
just
say
a
he
film
ran right through?
I don't know if it was just a film translation, like you only have 2.5 hours. We gotta wrap this up, and they just slam it together.
Wrap it
In
up.
fact, I
Did he
think-
wrap it up? It's the 50s.
Goodbye. I think
Stop.
actually Maria had more of a reaction to her brother getting killed in this movie than she did in the original.
Oh wow.
I
Because in
agree.
the original,
I agree.
she was very much like, "Oh no, like it can't be real," and then it just immediately goes into, somewhere, which they interestingly did not sing in this one. It was Rita Moreno who sang it, which gave it a different context. Go ahead, somebody.
I mean, I think there's a lot of underlying social issues too going on in these characters. Here I am questioning Maria's quick to run to Tony, despite that he's the guy that killed my brother. There might be some psychological stuff, and that's why I think the Officer Krupke number was because I don't remember it being that insightful. As far as one, they definitely pointed out that, hey, your fathers are the scum and the drunks who did not move up to the east side or whatever, and who were left here to take care of the neighborhood. And so therefore they beat you, they, disregard you, neglect you.
Which you're right.
was
I don't
was that
remember
a
that,
thing?
going in depth in the original movie or even in the musical, and I kind of like that aspect of it.
Well, it definitely makes you because again, the Jets are not good people necessarily. But then it's a domino effect. Why are they not good people? And it's the sins of the fathers and sins of, product of your environment. There's a lot of gray area. And here, let's segue now to Riff. How y'all
Mike.
feel? Mike.
Yeah. So he was
Go.
I'm familiar with him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was in. There's a lot of this cast that has been in Newsies. There's a lot of this cast.
He
that's
was
been in
he
Fiddler on the Roof.
originated a role in Newsies. He did.
Okay. There's a lot that have been in Billy Elliot. So I'm just like, everyone's confused.
Bernardo was Billy Elliot. Yeah.
Okay, so haha. What I will say, so he was also part of Dear Evan Hansen. He played Connor, but he was great. He was really, really good. And I liked that there was like this menacing aspect, like I think at times whenever I've seen any productions, like certainly he's like not great, but there's almost been more of like joking element to him that I felt like was part of it, but there was still like menacing, like there was purpose in terms of being violent and aggressive, kind of in his version. So I thought he was also one of the standouts. I really think that like Anita and Riff were the two, like also in Rachel or Maria were kind of the standout cast members in terms of like, oh damn, like he's very good, but also commands presence on screen. And, you know, yeah, I would love to see him in more things. I think in some interviews he's kind of shied away from like movie stardom. I'm putting quotes around that. I think he's quite like introverted and shy as far as like wanting a life in a van in the woods. But I hope that he branches out and continues, because I think he's really talented and quite interesting to him on screen. So,
DoctahReeka, that's such an interesting point that you made, and this is just how about Riff being comedic and how a lot of productions tend to lean into his comedy, because in how it's supposed to be on stage, Riff actually sings cool to the rest of the Jets to get them to calm down and be like, look, we can't do with this. We can't have this, we can't freak out. We can't do any of this. We need to be cool. We need to be collected, and we need to be smart about this so that we can go kill these, MFers. And it's so funny how the 1961 version changed that, because they switched the order of Dear Officer Krupke and Cool around, giving Riff a more comedic tone. And it's like you're a toxic partner that can't stop calling you. Like, stop, hang up the phone, don't answer. Because Riff really is he's a menace. He's a menace. And I think in this one, yeah, he was joking, and I really like their version of Cool, I think, is what set this apart from the original, because the original Cool musical number is stuff of like Broadway legend, because they did it in like 3 days and they threw off their knee pads, and it was just some of the greatest choreography that has ever been put to screen. And then in this version, they kind of differentiated enough and changed the context to which Riff still can be menacing and still be calculating. And it gives Tony a little bit more to do than just be like, I'm in love, woohoo.
See, I don't remember Riff being a badass. He was just a cool guy, But this whole movie, he's like, ready to go. He's like, no knives, no, what about chains and pipes? And he's just ready to rumble every single scene he's in. And I'm like, this skinny dude, but he proved it. I was like, okay, he's the leader. Everybody else here is an idiot. So I believed it. I believed it. I did like Riff. At first, I was like, this skinny guy can't be Riff.
I liked how he could switch, like that playful nature that he had, but he could switch on the dime. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm this playful guy, but I have a knife, I have a gun right here that I could just, that at any second I can draw it upon you, but you don't know when. Like, he had this degree of kind of like, he had a chip on his shoulder, due to like environment and other experiences that they kind of like mention in the movie a little bit, but it's like a degree of like unstable, like he's unstable, and like you never know what's gonna make him break and what's really gonna tip him over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really like that a lot about Riff. Like, he did a great job. Like, the actor, I don't know his name, honestly. So
Mike, I don't know his what's DoctahReeka? Mike Feist
did an amazing job there.
And again, that's the folly of the Jets, though, too. They're so fixated on this whole territory turf.
Yep.
And keeping white in, keeping everybody out. That it's their hubris. That is why they failed. That is why Riff died. That is why Tony died, because they couldn't get past that. And they did a really good job at showcasing, they are their own worst enemy.
Yep.
They are their own problem. Only Tony was the one who really tried to, move on and saw the bigger picture of things. So I think they did it. Again, credit to Spielberg too. I don't think you get any of this in the original. I like no kind of like empathy towards these like underlying problems they're all having. So I guess shout out to him and shout out to the cast too for like really portraying that very well. I feel we covered pretty much all we need to say about this movie. Does anybody have a favorite number, or just I know we love Anita. Does anyone have a favorite number? I think we're wrapping this up now. Just sound off.
The best number like in the movie is America. Like choreography wise, it's like the most over the top. It's so well made. Now, like the one I like the most, like because like emotionally speaking, Tonight, I just love that song as well. And Maria obviously, but I feel Maria is a very hard song, and it wasn't maybe it was all right, but it wasn't done to the potential. Like when you hear Maria, it's like Maria is that song. It's like a timeless song that's been sung by God knows how many people.
My quintessential version of Maria is NinoDesplazado's.
Oh yeah.
Folks, you can find that on Glee Club at UCF.
Bow.
If you
Take a bow.
No, honestly, that's my definitive version. And when he didn't hit those high notes, I was like, this is kind of underwhelming.
I'll be honest, I felt the same way. I was in the theater like, oh, okay, we didn't go out there. Let me go home and rewatch,
Right. Honestly.
version.
I'm dead.
I was very underwhelmed. I was like,
me.
Nino, you set the bar, man. And when he didn't deliver, I was like, because I didn't think Ansel Elgort could sing to begin with. Like, I was like, can this dude sing? And even if he can't sing, I don't think he can get that high. I don't think he can project that much. So, yeah, I totally agree, though. America.
And Tonight, I really liked it. Tonight was good.
The first one or the reprise with like the
quintet.
The quintet.
I love the quintet, but I don't think it was done. I think, I've seen it done better. I do think America is like the best number in the musical, just because it just did everything right. I can't have a fault in it. Even it's such a tonal shift in the movie. It's like a pocket where the movie is like highlighted with blues and grays that are encroaching on these characters and on the camera. And then America is the only time in the movie where you see it's full of gold, it's full of yellows and reds and oranges.
The musical number it's an escape. It's an escape. Yeah. Like it feels out of it, but at the same time part of it. It's like it's its own little thing inside the world that is the movie. It's its own little world, and I like that a lot.
Actually, now that we mentioned that, I like how a lot of the musical scenes, it felt like people were like looking at them like, what are you all doing? Like they were stopping traffic. I think Tony looked to the little girl was looking at Tony singing Maria, and
oh yeah, like the janitor.
Right.
He just looks at him like, okay, like great, good for you, man.
Right. I feel that's that nice little subtle humor. Dr. Jace, I know you're not a musical aficionado. Did you have a standout number?
No. America definitely was my number one, but my number two, and it's a biased number two. It's nothing crazy, but my number two is I Feel Pretty.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is because I went into this blind. I have like literally next to no knowledge with West Side Story, but I have seen its influence outside of, you know, the source material. So when I started hearing I Feel Pretty, the first thing I remembered was, oh my God, that's the song sung by Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler in Anger Management. And immediately, Nino can attest to it too, I was singing the lyrics right next to him, like, oh my God, I know this. And I was jamming with it. Mind you, at this point in the movie, I was kind of tired a little bit. It was late in the night, but this song woke me up, and I was into it. So I Feel Pretty is my number 2. America's at the top. It has all the choreography and the bombastic nature to make it number 1. But number 2 for me is definitely I Feel Pretty. I enjoyed that one.
Very nice. Oh, go ahead. Yes, DoctahReeka. Yes.
No, I was going to say, I really, folks have already talked about America, so I won't, labor on it. I forget, I Feel Pretty has sometimes been shifted, if I'm not mistaken, depending on the show. So I will say, as soon as because it happens right after the deaths. So I'm sitting here like, oh, it's been a while since I've watched this, so I forgot. And then we go immediately into I Feel Pretty. And so there was a sense of like, I don't know, I had this tension, and I feel it was done purposefully, where like, oh shit, like this just happened, and then we go immediately into I Feel Pretty, which is very light. And so I actually really enjoyed that decision, so I was going to shout that out. But I think I've already mentioned kind of the duet between Anita and Maria near the end that I really liked.
That duet's really good. That duet's really good.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I definitely cried during Somewhere. With Rita on her own, just having her moment, because she doesn't traditionally sing that. So yeah, just plenty of tears, because I think she just turned 90 this like past week. I had just watched her Netflix documentary, which go watch it. It's really good. It gives some insight on like how difficult her life was in terms of like just growing up in Hollywood, and how like terribly she was treated, and kind of the ways in which she has succeeded despite. And so I do recommend her documentary, because it talks about her experience in this film, as well as just being in the spotlight. But so I definitely did just cry. I was very impacted by her own, just giving her moment as the legend in the film. So.
Yeah, I think bringing her back in this film, it never felt jarring. Like, if you knew who she was, it's like, oh, it was really cool to see. But her character served a purpose, and it was not, and she never overstayed her welcome. She was always welcome. Like, we wanted more of her and her voice of reason. I think that was an excellent choice to bring her back and have her serve that role. Darce, I wanted to ask you, I know you felt impactful from In the Heights and now this. What do you want to see from musicals moving forward, especially when it comes to like maybe remakes where they have a chance to, highlight some other cultural aspects of musicals that we haven't seen? Is this something you want to see moving forward? And do you think they're doing a good job right now?
Yeah, and I think some like my favorite musical numbers that they did, even though the singing was absolutely phenomenal, the choreography in this was spectacular. My favorite numbers were the ones that were over in the gym when they were doing the mambo,
yes,
just dancing and doing like it kind of brings back that whole idea of like, if you're going to fight with your eyes, like try to be like more civilized with how you're going to be fighting people. Don't use your fists. They took it to another level where it was like they were fighting with their dance, and they were getting really close. Like I don't remember them getting like that close where they were throwing the girls to kick the legs. Like it was awesome to see. My other favorite dance number was when they were fighting over the gun. Like I was very like, this thing is gonna go off any second now, like, or hopefully he's gonna drop it in one of those holes, and maybe Tony will fall through one of those holes. I don't know. But it was really cool to see the choreography and all of this. And I think moving forward, that's what I really want to see. I want to see people stay true to the choreography. Like, they could have changed it up. They could have made, the men's dance like less of a ballerina, like less of a ballet format, and put a little bit more of a masculine tone to it or whatnot. But I thought that it was amazing seeing these masculine guys bring this ballet type dancing on screen, and it was just so cool to see the choreography of it all. And I would like to see like more of that in the portrayal of things coming up in the future. I want to see people stick to their choreography. I want to see people stick to some of the original elements, and kind of do what Steven Spielberg did. Bring it to modern age, make tweaks where you think that you need to make tweaks. Don't tweak the whole thing, but keep a sense of the original, I have to also give a huge shout out to the cinematography of this, the way that they got the angles, the way that they brought, it wasn't really bright, like everything was kind of muted. I really like that aspect of it. It kind of gives you that whole, when you think of the 1950s, you never think of anything in color because they didn't really have color media back then. So everything is a little bit more on the bleaker side. So I really appreciated the muted tones and all the cinematography. So great directing, great cinematography, great choreography. That's what I want to see in the future.
Well said. Quick go around, final scores. I'll go first. I think it's y'all might hate me. I gave it 8.5 out of 10. I did not like Ansel Elgort. 8.5 out of 10. Other than that, fantastic ride. Enjoyed every bit of it.
9.5 out of 10.
Agree.
All right. I would give it an 8, a solid 8 out of 10. I still enjoyed it, still among the high ends of the musicals I've seen so far. So I think an 8's a good score for it. The main cast I was kind of indifferent to. The supporting cast is where I was with for most of the movie.
I think a 9 out of 10 for me. I really love the visuals of it, and the cinematography, the dancing, like I've said 1,000 times. I give it a 9.
Yeah, I used out of 5 stars because I'm on Letterboxd. So like 4 out of 5. Similar to what's kind of been alluded to, Ansel being present in the first place. But I also think the supporting cast is really fantastic, and the direction. I think it goes to show when people like truly care about making a good musical, it makes a difference. I think what we've seen over the last few years, or really what's been kind of difficult in making movie musicals in the modern age, is like maybe there's not as much love kind of injected into those creations. So we think of like the golden age of like the 50s, 60s, is like there's this intentionality and people behind the camera as well as in front of the camera that really, really care and want to put that into kind of what they're creating. And I think we got a sense of that. So one of my favorites of the year.
I think I'll give it same as a GrandMasterHoop, 8.5 out of 10. This had the unfortunate circumstance of coming after Tick Tick Boom released, so that does heavily affect my score. And I think, and to DoctahReeka's point really quick, I think people are finally learning how to make movie musicals again, because with they were trying to just make them for money. Cats, Hello Dolly, what's the difference? Oh, one of them can sing and the other one can't. You know what I mean? So it's really just a sign of the times. And maybe when people start being more sincere behind that camera and in front of that camera, we'll have home run. We have 2 home runs musicals out of this year, and I'm just like, wow, that's great. I'm excited to see where it goes. And we're just gonna ignore Dear Evan Hansen forever.
Still haven't seen Dear Evan Hansen, but I don't think it'll be on my list after what y'all have said. But listen, folks, we wrapping up here at the Yonkō Table. You heard it here. I'm sorry, I'm being bothered. Go watch West Side Story. There's a lot you could take from it. A lot of good, not that much bad. Go watch West Side. It is what we need to do.
And watch NinoDesplazado Maria on YouTube.
Yes, we will.
We will provide a link in the description for the pod.
Yes,
on behalf of
will.
Nino, who is nodding his head in agreement to do so.
If you are not satisfied with Ansel Elgort, and you won't be, this is your quintessential Maria. So we got that for you. But listen, we're gonna close out the night. I'm your host, GrandMasterHoop, my fellow Yonkō, DrJaceAttorney, Supernovas. Oh my gosh, DrMondo, DoctahReeka, NinoDesplazado, and Darce. Oh, one last thing. Chino, he's just a Puerto Rican Josh Gann. Listen, we're the Yonkō Table. Y'all have a great night. Peace out.
You're gonna end on that note?